with Dr. EMMANUEL Ohabunwa. Hello, doctor. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
It's great to have you here. Dr. EMMANUEL Ohabunwa is a Yale-trained doctor. He's making us proud. The whole community is so grateful for someone like you. So you are Yale-trained, Ivy League-trained, highest GPA neuroscience, Johns Hopkins University. Tell us a little bit about take us through this journey of who you are and how it came up to being the highest GPA.
Oh, well. So that was, where do you want me to start? The interesting part. So,
take me back a little bit, even take me to high school. We just want to get to know
you.
I
was born in Nigeria.
Okay.
My parents were, my dad was a businessman. My mom was a crime journalist, and they got called into the ministry. So they got called into the ministry a while ago, but they started a church and a foundation in Nigeria. And so growing up, we were just used to being in an environment of service and of giving.
Yes.
Doing various volunteer works. They did a lot of missionary activities in Togo. They did work in Benin Republic, and they were here. They were in Nigeria, in Lagos, and in our community. And so I grew up in that environment. I went to Air Force Comprehensive School in Ibadan.
In Ibadan. Oh, wow.
Nigeria.
Okay.
And then when I was 13, my parents got an opportunity to do some service work here in the U.S. and they moved us here to Houston, Texas.
So as a teenager, you moved from Africa to Texas.
To Houston.
Okay.
At the age of 13.
Okay.
There I went to a high school for health professions, the Bakey High School for Health Professions. I don't know.
Shout out to whoever.
Shout out to the Bakey. And then I went to Hopkins for undergrad.
Tell us about Hopkins.
Hopkins was one of it was a tough transition, but it was a huge, huge blessing being in an environment like that.
Okay.
Hopkins is, as you know, it's a world-class institution. I wanted to be in an environment where I was, pushed as much as possible to achieve the best that I could. And
how did you get into Hopkins? Tell me your story, because Johns Hopkins is not just, it's got to be something that pushed you from high school, how you started noticing some greatness in you, something. Just kind of walk us through that a little bit.
So in high school, so actually one of the motivations, I come from my parents and my dad's brothers. My dad has 9 brothers and 2 sisters who are extremely successful. The oldest, just from him, he led a management buyout of Pfizer in Nigeria, turned it into NEMEF, and he writes, he's published, he's very, very known in Nigeria and throughout. So there's senators and various people. So I came from a family where there was a huge focus on education and doing well, but also ascribing everything to God. So God was our focus.
Yes.
Education and success, and making sure that whatever thing you got, you used it to help others.
So you were influenced by leaders who led by example.
Yes, exactly.
They showed you success at an early age.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so going back to high school at the Bakey, I remember during one of my classes, we had to read a book during for the first few minutes. And I like to joke around. A lot of kids wanted to be like Mike. I wanted to be like Carson, i.e. Ben Carson. Not the Carson of
That's
late.
What I'm saying. Who? Yeah.
Benjamin Carson of late, who I don't know. There's been some things with politics.
This is a controversy, but it's just politics.
With some politics. But I'm talking about the gifted hands Ben Carson. I don't know if you know much about him, but he's a famous neurosurgeon who was the first to help separate Siamese twins joined in the head, written a lot of books, done a lot of different things. And growing up, I picked up a book during that class called Think Big by him. And I immediately fell in love, and I was like, I want to be this man. I want to be Dr. Carson. I want to be a neurosurgeon. And so I proceeded to read everything about him. I watched every video about him.
That's amazing.
So Hopkins was kind of
Was that where
because
he went?
He was there. He was
knew
there.
there was
So he was at Hopkins and Yale.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Which happens to be places I
That you've gone.
end up in. And so I admired his focus in God, his focus on
It's big on that
and
faith.
his ability to break barriers.
Yes.
Being a black man in institutions that are very prestigious, predominantly Caucasian, and being able to excel in those areas, and that was a strong motivation for me. So a lot of this, I wanted to model my life after the way he had modeled it.
So he inspired you. You picked up this book. You read it. How did you get from that into getting into Johns Hopkins?
So there was that, and then there was the focus. So, from that, there was, I began to realize that God had given me some gifts in terms of understanding of a lot of the materials. So being a high school for health professions, we were taking advanced anatomy and physiology in high school every summer.
Sciences.
Every summer I was in the hospital volunteering initially, because we were still high school students. My job was like to answer phone calls or go
running around
whenever patients came in, or bringing towels or bringing water. But I learned a lot of strong lessons from that, and the most important was that no matter how far you go, no matter how high you go, your job was to do the best you could based on your abilities. So at that time, being not knowing much, being a high schooler, my ability was being able to answer calls and take towels and take water whenever the patients needed. And there was a lot of lessons about being in the hospital setting that I learned from being in that environment. And obviously, as the years progressed, I became better and learned some things. I was able to volunteer in more concrete ways. And I did very well at Hopkins. During graduation, I got the most outstanding senior award. I was a national achievement finalist.
What about that GPA that made the headlines?
And then so that was high school. And so thankfully, I actually. So I applied to Hopkins and I got in, and walk into this environment, and it was very different, especially for someone who had never ventured that way before. But it's an important lesson about pushing yourself out of your boundaries, so out of your comfort zone. So Hopkins was that push. And I like to tell students, because I work with a few students now, I like to tell them.
So you're a peer counselor now?
So I'm a coach, I work coaching with various levels of students, because my desire, and I'll be happy to talk about that a little bit. But so for Hopkins I like to think of it as one of those places where you're put in an environment with people who are very intense and very hardworking.
Right. So everyone's there.
So everyone there is very successful. And so you have no option but to be successful. So it was the best environment for me as an undergraduate, because I needed structure, and Hopkins provided that structure for me.
At that time, before Hopkins or during Hopkins, when did you understand that you had something? Like something special, like you had the ability to understand maybe science. Well, there was something in you. Where did you start believing? Because I want this to impact someone watching. When did you start understanding that you had to take a great step and push yourself, or did you always have had that in you?
I think first of all, I don't think I have anything special. I think God gives us abilities. He's given us the brain to be able to understand material. I happen to, like many others, to be good at understanding science. There's some people who are extremely good at mathematics. There are people who are extremely great writers. And I happen to have plugged into something that I was good at early.
And so one of the keys
is finding one of those things that you are good at, because we're all very smart. God has given us strong brains. So finding those things and really chasing it and doing well and excelling. So especially for higher institutions that are relatively prestigious,
yes.
the goal is now you've been given smarts. Okay, that's
Yes.
good. Everybody's smart. Now, what can you do about it? What can you do with it? And that's where the hard work comes in.
Yes.
And that's where the perseverance and all that. So like I like to talk about, you know, during the thing,
Remember,
you were there.
we were just at his graduation ceremony.
Yes.
It was a fun time, and people came to celebrate with you. I saw people so excited. I was on the dance floor with you. I mean, that's how excited I was so proud of him, and I was there with a couple of friends, and we were celebrating. You know, we came there as Vineyard Television, but we came as personal friends because we've met previous years. We've known throughout the years. So we've done programs in New York and things together. But I came there and I was supporting a brother. I don't know, there was so much pride. And thank God for a show like this to showcase our community pride. But I felt like I was cheering for you and cheering for a brother. And just tell us about that graduation moment.
Oh yeah, it was a wonderful.
Reception.
One of the things I talked about was I like to think of a 3-step tips for success. And the first rung, you know, just like Ben Carson, who was my hero at that time, was like you focus on God and knowing that God gives you the ability. God gives us the brain to be successful, to be smart. Now, but the thing is, if he gives you the brain, you got to use it. So that's where the next rung comes in. That's where the perseverance, the hard work, the diligence, the determination to keep pushing, especially in areas where there's obstacles. There's guaranteed. If you have never experienced an obstacle in your life, please come shake my hand and pass that on to me.
Tell me about an obstacle that you overcame. Tell me, because someone's listening to you and they say, yes, Dr. Emmanuel, I'm smart, or I know that I could comprehend or understand science, but how do you overcome obstacles? Because you were given steps right now, and you did say, first, you know that you know, and then what have you gone through that I'm putting you on the spot now, that tells you that, hey, if I could get out of this, maybe it's a class, maybe it's just a tough situation that you,
There've been classes. There's been a lot of classes. I did not grow up enjoying math.
Oh, okay. So I could actually overcome. I'm the same.
I did not. I didn't think I was. It was because that was not the practice growing up. I was good. My mom was a writer. She was a journalist, so like writing was never a problem for me.
Yes.
She was a grammar person, so she would like correct you. And if you were if you used the wrong grammar, she would correct you immediately. And it was great because now I have that in my head. Anytime someone uses the wrong grammar, I'm like, So I try not to be rude to correct them, but in my mind, I'm correcting you.
That's a mother's love.
But I didn't think I was very good at math. And I think the problem was the mindset, right? Many of the time, which is why I corrected when you said, you know, when did you realize you were special?
Exactly.
I don't think there's anything special about me. I don't think there's anything special about a lot of us. We just find ways things that we're good at, and then we plug in and put in the work.
That's profound.
And math for me was one of those things where I initially assumed that, you know, some people were programmed to be good at math.
I thought so. So tell you,
But no, some of them, when they were younger, they were doing the multiplication tables like every day until it became second nature. They were some of them worked in environments where they had to do math, like they worked at cashiers. So like that was practice. So you have a brain, your brain gets practiced, new synapses get made, and then you become very, very good at math. So when I entered for physics, for example, I initially did not do well on my first exam in physics in college. I ended up getting 100 on the final and doing very well. But it wasn't because I was smart. It was because I started and I was like, there are resources available. I thank God for Hopkins and the resources that were available. So I went to TA sessions. I had friends. I made friends with the kids who were very, very smart, who knew physics, who was their type of way. And I just learned that one of the things the mindset I had initially was, tell me the right answer. But the mindset I needed to have was, how did you approach that?
That's awesome.
So that I could recreate it.
That's steps. You don't want to be handed out.
Yes.
You want the process.
Yeah. And so once I changed my mindset from that, I began to find that physics was one of my favorite classes. I began to find that I enjoyed math, but not too much where I went to major in math, but I began to find that I enjoyed those because I changed my mindset from there are people who were just good at it to understanding that, yes, there's some of us who weren't programmed, I guess, to be good at it, but we can put in the work to make sure that we do extremely well in those classes.
Putting in the work.
Yes.
Dr. Manuel, I know I did cut you off when you were giving us the steps. If you could take us through those steps again.
And so so that was so again the first step is like having a foundation of God.
Yes.
And knowing that God gives you that ability. The second step is all the other things. So the perseverance, the determination, the hard work, and all of those. But the third step is God brings people in your lives.
Oh wow.
And looking at those people. Because there are people in my life. So for example, I gave the example of a professor I had. One of my neuroscience professors, I TA'd a few classes with him, who, you know, I had done well in his class, and he really liked me.
Yes.
And so I would go in and ask him lots of questions. Because I had this very, very crazy curiosity. So I would ask a lot of questions. Why is it this way? Why couldn't it be this way? And then I'd go back and read and then ask questions. And so he became sort of my dad during my time at Hopkins. He became just a role model and mentor in various ways. And I remember one time asking, I was like, my MCATs, I'm not sure of, I don't know, I'm worried about it. How do you study? And he was like, you should take a class. And I was like, I can't afford the class. He was like, I'll pay for it.
Oh wow. Finding the people in your life that are willing to go that extra step.
And he's not supposed to. That's not something that professors did, but he just did it. And so now I did extremely well on the MCATs, and I did that thankfully because, again, God, perseverance, hard work, because I'd done well in this class, people. And so I think there's this very strong mentality. I feel that even in the med school area where there's I do it myself, I study myself, I work myself. But I'm just grateful to God for surrounding me with the best people, the best support systems. I can talk from now till tomorrow about the support system.
Let me ask you something. I know someone watching this. The whole goal about this, Dr. Manuel, is to inspire someone else. That your story has already given us community pride. I said that before. But I want a kid somewhere in high school, somewhere, whether in Africa, whether in Texas, whether in USA, to say, Dr. Manuel said, believing in God-given skills. He said, my perseverance, my hard work, my going through the process, but the third key, which I heard in me, other than God, the most important key is those key people. How do one see, because I see, take an example of your mentor. So you started going to your mentor, there's a symbiotic relationship. You go to him, you ask questions. So he's seeing that you're interested to put in the work. So it's not just, I want you to clarify something, because some people just seek out mentors and go after them, ask them, but you did something I really want to challenge others to see. You went to him for questions, you showed him the drive, you showed him your interest level, and he also, being a mentor, was willing to impact in your life. That is amazing.
And I can count countless experiences like that where, especially being in an environment, my parents weren't wealthy. My parents were pastors. They focused on, they had their desire, and one of the lessons they didn't let us have jobs when we were younger.
It was more education.
Their desire, no, it wasn't just education. It was their desire was, you pick a volunteer service over a job. Because when you give unto others, God will give unto you.
Oh, I love them already.
And it's been such a blessing, because I gave this testimony at church where I've had a full ride scholarship all through my learning.
Oh my God.
And
it's amazing.
And
what do you attribute that to?
It's partly because I have a feeling, well, first, my parents are they're servants to God, and they're servants to people, and they had this focus in many ways of doing your best whenever you could in terms of service to others, and God and hard work and all of that. put that position for
The
me.
key,
So it's been a huge blessing in that sense.
That's awesome. You touch upon something that I marvel at because it's one of those things that personally drives me. Missions, giving back, community. It drives me to a person, it drives me to a community. I think President Obama had actually talked about service. He talks about, and I noticed that in my profiling you, I saw that you got a President Obama volunteer service. Talk to us about your awards. I know you're not big on mentioning them, but we're going to go through each and every one.
Well, that one was very special because it was a special to the organization.
Okay.
And so this is an organization, it was founded by the CEO is Kojo Sarpong. He's a Ghanaian man, very, very driven. I've gotten to hang out with him a lot. He's just a wonderful, wonderful man.
Okay.
And, he saw that, one of the problems we have, and it was a thing that connected us, was there's this desire, they talk about how, they say, you give a man fish, right?
About it.
And you feed him for a day, but you teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Say it again. So we gotta quote him. Quotes.
Well, that's not my quote.
I know.
But, and so one of the things he saw was that a lot of the research that's being done in the US, a lot of it does not necessarily relate to developing countries. It doesn't relate to Ghana, it doesn't relate to Nigeria, it doesn't relate to all these places because, well, if you build this big MRI machine, guess what? It costs like $1 million or whatever. Which of these countries are able to afford that for the masses? And so one of the things he decided he wanted to do was be involved in increasing research by empowering women. And he also noticed that there was a huge gender gap between females and males in terms of research. And so this organization was started to bridge that gender gap by pairing girls who were in college with mentors both in the US and in Ghana. And so they do an 8-week intensive research academy where they're given whatever resources they need to fulfill their projects. And this is something that's a longitudinal project. So for many years we've been doing 15, we've had 15 girls. This year we had 10 and then 5 fellows. And the goal is to continually expand. So we are currently partnering with Nigeria, with the University of Ghana, one of the professors there, in order to do a full-year sponsorship for girls in Nigeria. We're also trying to partner with Yale and various other institutions, especially I talked earlier in the year. Oh, this is ongoing. And with a professor at Emory University to use some research funds to bring a student here to get some work and do a project that's related to stuff that's involved in Africa, so that we can continually build that research and that curiosity and that inquisitive nature that God has given us to be able to fix the problems that plague our countries.
Dr. EMMANUEL, you've got an amazing mind. I could talk to you forever. Because his mind it's not only, permit me to call it genius level, it's not only genius level, but you've got service. It's teaching us, this is groundbreaking because to me it's not just that you're smart, you're getting the GPAs, I've profiled you. You've got the GPAs, the award, one of the best, highest GPA, Johns Hopkins University, neuroscience. You've got the President Obama's award, but what I'm hearing here is service. I'm hearing heart, I'm hearing commitment to who you are, where you're from. You're thinking about your missions to Africa. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, I have all this write up on you and I'm enjoying that we're getting to know him personally, what drives him. I've got the RC Dean Academic Scholarship, Dean's Fellows, Charles Brumpock Memorial.
Fellowship,
What's
the
that?
Miller Reina.
Miller Reina. What's
These are some,
just quickly, give us.
Quickly. So I've, like I said, I've been blessed with just sponsorship in various ways to go to school. So that was a memorial scholarship that allowed me to be able to go through all of med school without
all
paying
of
a
med
dime.
school you went
I did not
on
pay, on the full scholarship.
Amazing.
So it's been It's been, I think I'm grateful to Yale. Yale has, God just led me to that place. I don't know how much you'd read about my story where, I had gotten into every medical school I applied to. And, I narrowed it down to between Harvard and Yale.
You got into Harvard, Yale, Hopkins, Columbia, Cornell, and the list goes on. How did you narrow it down to Harvard and Yale?
And so, when I was younger, actually, it's kind of interesting. My mom, she would say, I don't even know if she knew where Harvard was at that time, but she'd be like, in her Nigerian accent, "You're going to Harvard."
Prophetically. Go, mama.
So when I did get in, I thought, it was set. I'm going to Harvard. Boom.
Woo.
Forget everything. But while I was visiting different schools, I being a child of pastors, desires to go by whatever God's plan
for
is.
You.
So I prayed to God to give me signs of it, and I couldn't visit Yale during the time they were supposed to visit, the revisit
the plan,
So I emailed the director of admissions, and I was like, I can't visit. He was like, come whenever. And he picked me up from the train station. Why would the director of admissions pick me up from the train station?
This is Yale.
From Yale.
Okay.
He took me around, and one of the things I found, and I wrote about it in the book, was that I met people who were extremely, extremely accomplished on paper. But in person, they could talk to you from now till tomorrow, and you would know because they were just calm and nice. And it just struck me. And then a few days later, I got a letter of like a full ride scholarship. And so it seemed like all of those things came together. These were mentors, that people I wanted to model my life after, and I get to attend there for free.
Amazing. I mean, you are loaded. Okay, so let me run through. The White House gave you a congratulations on receiving the President's Volunteer Service Award. This is from President Obama, right?
Yeah.
You've got the African Research Academics for
Academies
Women.
Award for
women,
yes.
From President Obama. I mean, I'm reading everything. This is a book that we received at your graduation. Your parents, you told me about it. Your parents give back.
Yeah, so my parents actually, so just a little bit of a story about the book. My parents had received a lot of messages from various people about my story and how it had influenced them and inspired them to do work. I even get a lot of Facebook messages, and every time I get these messages, it just brings a lot of joy to my heart that, like someone would read my story and it would inspire them to do well. And then, it's like Obama says, yes, we can. Yes, we can succeed in prestigious colleges. People like me, people who come from lower socioeconomic statuses, people who come from, who are minorities. We can succeed in these institutions. We can take over the world. We can become the best because God has given us strong abilities to be the best. And so my parents saw these letters and all that, and they felt like, as a gift to me, as to all the people, they wanted to just make a compilation of all these different articles.
And let me take you through what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing member spotlight. You've got interviews by Phi Beta Kappa, like he said, the key reporter. I've seen one right here. Former president. There's never a former president, so you just say President Jonathan. Good luck, Jonathan of Nigeria. He only awarded 10 Nigerians. He honored 10 Nigerians, and you were one of those. That's amazing. I'm going through this real quick. Nigerian breaks academic record at Johns Hopkins University. Take me just quickly through that moment.
So that was the one. So I actually didn't know for that one. I didn't even know there was. I didn't even know about a record. I didn't.
What was the record? What exactly was the figure?
So for them, it was the highest GPA in neuroscience at Hopkins. I didn't even know, and I could care less about a record.
There's something about him. These numbers don't make a difference. It's just more like.
No, but that was not the focus.
Oh, you see?
Right? So the focus was to do well for my community, to do well for my parents, to do well for the people who had invested in my life.
I'm getting something from you, Dr. Emmanuel. So that changes our thinkings a little bit. It's not so much about the focus of, I want to be the best. It's about something else that takes you through that path. Right?
Because that's what, because, you know, there are hard times that came with that,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so that's one of the things that keeps you focused, is that you're not the only one. You're not doing this for yourself.
So it's not,
You're doing
it's not
it,
self-centered.
Yes, there are thousands
This is what
of
this
millions
says.
of Nigerians
all over the world.
all over the world who would die for an opportunity
Amazing.
to study at these universities.
This is what the headline says. It says, a 22-year-old Nigerian
Oh my God.
has emerged, he doesn't like this, but I'm going to read. A 22-year-old Nigerian has emerged one of the top graduating students of Johns Hopkins University in the United States of America. He obtained a grade point average of 3.98 out of a possible 4.0 to earn a degree. I'm getting goosebumps, a degree in neuroscience. You know why? I'm very passionate about people who excel. Not only that, people who are so into it's not self, it's community, it's care, it's family. I hear you, family. I hear giving back to those who's invested in me. Then I hear you, the other day we were on the phone scheduling this interview. You know what you said to me? I told Linda this, she nearly cried on the phone. I said, a friend of mine, Linda, that we share a friend together, and I said, do you know Dr. EMMANUEL rescheduled? Somebody would have chased the fame of this interview to go and be with his peer. You were you were a coach.
Yeah.
He's coaching future med students. I can't cry on this show, but you brought me to tears, and I didn't tell you that on the phone. I was waiting for this moment. He said, Tina, can we reschedule today? And I couldn't say no. He said, because I made a commitment. I have to be with these guys who want to be where I am. It's amazing. I want to congratulate your heart.
You.
I want to tell you that you've touched me. I remember sharing some things with you about my missions and what I go to Africa to do, that I see you doing great things. I see you doing awesome things.
Thank you.
And I'm proud of your parents. I'm proud of what they've instilled in you. You have a community behind you. You've got my friends, Linda, Paula. You've got Viant Television. You've got the crew here. You've got Ayo. They're excited about getting to know you. So I know this interview is going to be used. My goal for it is taking it to Africa or anywhere in the world, representing you as a Texan, representing you as a USA citizen, representing you as a citizen of the world of Africa, that you could do it, a Nigerian, and you made us proud.
Thank you.
It's so good to see you, but we're going to have you back on the show to do more, because I know do more follow-ups as you keep striding on. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Any parting words? Anything?
Just, you know,
for people,
if you need this book or whatever, you can definitely, I'll leave the information. Just look me up on, I have a page on Facebook. You can just find me.
What's your name on Facebook? Any contacts with any?
Dr. EMMANUEL Ogbonwa.
Okay.
Yes.
So Dr. EMMANUEL Ogbonwa, he answers questions to anyone who wants to know the path towards his success. And his parents has put up a compilation of books about his achievements, not really to gloat or anything. This is just to glorify God. I think so. It's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching.